Today I'm chatting with Sue freaking Izzo, former CEO of Mosaic Sports Management and now HBIC at SueIzzo.com. She's the female Jerry Maguire with over 20 years of experience developing global pro athlete brands. Sue is a former industry leading action sports agency founder and sports agent who has represented top Olympic athletes, X Game medalists, world champion surfers, SB winners, and television personalities. Now, she's an amazing business growth coach and keynote speaker. Welcome to the show, Sue.
Thank you for having me. It is such an honor to be here with you today. Kind of excited about this.
Yay. I am just so excited to have you share your knowledge bombs and your wisdom with my listeners here on the podcast. I know that you and I met a couple years ago through Instagram, and then I was running like a networking group with a crazy name that we won't say here, but I just think, we were meant to meet, and it's just total kismet. And yeah, tell us about yourself and your business.
Oh my gosh, yes, we were absolutely meant to meet, my little friend. Female Jerry Maguire for 17 years, representing the world's best action sports athletes. After selling my company, I went on to help a friend of mine launch their marketing education company. They're based out of Australia. They asked me to bring the company here to the States, where I went around and taught business owners in a mastermind format, an 11-month format, 40 different modules of marketing. So how to grow their business through marketing and brand positioning. After a couple of years doing that, I decided to venture out on my own because there were a few other things that I wanted to do. And so shifted gears, and now I am a business growth coach and consultant, once again, helping people with their marketing, brand positioning, along with developing processes in their business to be more productive and being their number one cheerleader as well.
Yes. You're always such a positive person. And I feel like it helps to be around you because I think your energy just rubs off on people. And so that's like my favorite thing about you. And I love your tagline. Tell us what your little tagline is.
Sure. It's, I give you a kick in the butt with a hug. That's pretty much how I am a coach, without a doubt. That's my coaching method.
Yeah, it's perfect. It's so perfect because it's that, no BS mentality of like, hey, you need the kick in the pants to kind of get off the fence and get your butt in gear, but then you'll still be the encourager on the back end and give them a hug. Yeah, exactly.
Of course. Yeah. With a little tough love comes a little hug as well. Yeah.
I love it so much. So as pro organizers, we're all about helping our clients implement systems in their homes to kind of help them achieve maximum productivity. Recently on LinkedIn, I've been seeing you've been putting out tons of awesome content, articles, blog posts. And so tell us about this idea of the not to-do list.
Sure. Well, what was happening was that I was, like many of us, I've been writing my to-do list the night before of what I want to get done. I do the time blocking and all of that good stuff, productivity stuff. And then what was happening was that I kept seeing like the tasks go from one day to the next day to the next day, and they weren't getting done. And I really had to examine like, what the heck am I doing right or wrong here? And I realized that there were a lot of things that I shouldn't be doing that were getting in the way of accomplishing my to-do list. And so that's where, the whole idea of the not to-do list came up for me personally. Even though I'd learned about it from other people, it was kind of my aha moment. And I had to start identifying the things that I needed to stop doing in order to not only be more productive, but increase happiness in my life.
Yeah, I love that because being productive is one thing, checking off the boxes and crossing off the to-do list and like getting shit done, right? Making shit happen. But there are those mini like time sucks, those mini black holes, those mini like, why am I even doing this? There's no ROI on it. Like I just did it because somebody told me I should do this, but it's not actually working for me or my business. So
right.
I love that.
And I think too, like, like I was saying about the happiness part, it's like, right, like don't scroll on your phone for, 20 minutes and go down a rabbit's hole and not get your work done. But also too, like, if I want to be a better speaker or I want to feel more relaxed before bedtime, like, what am I doing that's taking away from that? And that was like, watching Netflix series after Netflix series, right? Or not reading 10 pages in a book. I mean, I'm a huge proponent of the baby steps. Like, I cannot do drastic change. I have to develop small habits that compound over time for change. So, but recognizing the stuff that was kind of preventing me from growing personally and professionally was huge. So yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm a huge fan of a to-do list, right? Here's one of
Yep.
my thousands of notepads. I know you have these in your house.
Yes, I do. I do.
And I think, like, for some people that get caught up, when we're just, most of the women listening to this podcast are kind of just starting out in their business. They're trying to figure it all out. They're probably writing tons and tons of these lists to try to get them on track and, do what should be done, all the basic business growth hacks and all that good stuff. But I really do like the idea of a not to-do list, because honestly, some days it's just plain hard to be an entrepreneur.
Absolutely.
And if I can make a not to-do list of, like, okay, I didn't eat sugary snacks, I didn't drink a bottle of wine by myself, I didn't, cry on the floor, like watching, some stupid video on Instagram. Like,
yes. Yeah, I mean, that's exactly it. It's everything, right? And I'm not saying, like, not do it ever again. It's just, if you identify what your goals are, like both for personal and professional growth, what are the things that are getting in the way of that or preventing you from getting there? Like, for me, like you, I have the to-do list, but what I do is I do like brain dump on Sunday night to get everything out of my head. And then I break it down to, like, all right, what has to get done this week? And then what I do is I just get a Post-it note and I write 3 things on the Post-it note and I slap that on my computer. And that's all my to-do list is for a day. They do align with kind of my bigger goals, but, I'm a disaster sometimes when it comes to accomplishing goals and to-do lists, a total disaster. So I have to always, it's kind of like meditation, where I have to, like, stop and I have to, like, check myself and be like, all right, I've gone so off the rails, nothing's getting done. Let's reel it back in. What are the tools that I know to help me be more productive, right? And what's really going to move the needle for me? The other thing that I'll do sometimes is I'll put dollar signs next to the tasks that will make me money. Like, I'll do $3 signs next to, like, the bigger task that will get me to money quicker, $1 sign that's like, and those are like little tricks and motivators for me. So then I'm really paying attention to the tasks, like I said, that are going to move the needle for me financially and grow the business.
That's so smart. Even just taking pen to paper and writing out a money sign, it's such a good indicator for your brain. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. That's perfect. And then another article that you recently wrote was all about business ownership versus this idea of the glorified job. And I definitely have my opinions on this, just being in business. And so, as a business growth coach, can you tell us a little bit more about this phenomenon?
Oh, fully. Yeah. I mean, the reason why I wrote about it is because I did it for so long. Like, for the first 8 years of my sports management business, though I said I had a business, it was really a glorified job with more debt and more stress. It wasn't until I took a step back and started documenting processes, and which is like your standard operating procedures, your SOPs, and started putting pen to paper of, like, how things get done. And then I was able to hire people to help me do the tasks. Why that was so important as well was I wasn't the bottleneck in my business anymore, because a lot of times as business owners, like, if we hire people to help us, they come to us with a question. We get frustrated because we know we could do it faster. And we're like, never mind, I'll do it. So what happens there is that then you take your eye off the business growth part of it, right? And that's where you need to be as the CEO and the visionary of your business. So that's one part of it, because your employees aren't mind readers. The other thing was, as you hire and fire people, the documentation of how the task is done, is not, it's easier to train people. And it's when people leave, they don't leave with all the knowledge. So that's another thing on why I like that. And I think that, the other thing about having a glorified job versus a business owner is that balance of working in the business and working on the business. This is a way, I don't think they have to be totally separate of each other. I think you can work on your business while working in the business. But like you showed with your to-do list, I'm a huge fan of the yellow legal pad. And when you do a process, just write down the process. That's it. It's that simple. You don't have to do anything fancy, but at least you're starting that documentation process. And then you can make it pretty in Google Docs or a Drive or whatever, you want to do. So that's kind of, the whole idea behind working or glorified business owner versus, a glorified job versus a business owner.
Yeah. Well, and really a glorified business owner too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and when I remember when I got to the point in my company and Let's Get You Organized where I was like just at my wits end. Like I knew the signs of burnout. I knew that I was starting to be fatigued. I knew that I was no longer starting to wake up every morning with this like feeling of abundance and lightness and freedom, because I had left my corporate job. And when it got to that point, I was like, oh crap, I created a job for myself.
Yes.
And how do I dig myself out of this hole? And so I immediately hired an assistant who turned out to be one of my best employees. She was absolutely amazing and worked with me for almost 2 years. And then from there, hired 3 more people to do the actual organizing. But then on the back end, I also needed a VA. And then at one point, I even had an intern. And all of that being said, I couldn't have done it without the SOPs, like you said, without those standard operating procedures, because when we're the business owner, we have, it's our baby. We have it all in our head, just like a baby. Their eating schedule, their feeding schedule, their sleeping schedule. What color their poop is and where their undies are, and it's like you've got to write it all down. And now, what honestly I love to use is Loom. It's like this little mini video recording thing so that you can actually screen share and walk through it, do like a tutorial for your team or for your VA or for your intern or whoever, and just have your little video in the corner and be able to walk them through exactly the process.
100%. Loom is so great. It's free, for a certain size. So go to loom.com. Definitely check that out. I wish we were both getting affiliate links for that. The other thing that I would say is the book, The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. That's a game changer. And I was so grateful that I read that early on in business, because it's kind of like, just because there's a body in the building doesn't mean you throw every single task at them. And that's really important too, as you're building your business. And I think when you get this little nugget early on, or no matter where you are in the journey, you just start thinking differently about documentation and how things work in the business and how to teach other people how to do them.
Yeah. I remember reading E-Myth on the beach in Turkey. And it was like the only time that I ever sit still. You know me, I'm like the energy. And so like when I go to Turkey, I have dual citizenship in Turkey, for those of you listening. And I, go home and see my family at our beach house like every year. And that's the only, I literally bring a stack, like a suitcase of books, because that's all I do while I'm there. And it's like my reading time. And so I'll never forget reading that book. And then meanwhile, my staff was running my business while I was on the beach in Turkey. And so it was this like full circle, like, oh, I'm doing it. Yes.
And that's the exact point, because when you're a glorified, when you have a glorified job, you can't go on vacation. Like you just can't. Your business isn't going to make money while you sleep. So when you learn these things early on and you could set your business up this way, it's just, again, we get into business because we're passionate about what we're doing, but we also don't want to be working on it 365 days a year, right?
Yeah.
So this is like business organization 101 to help allow for freedom.
I love it. 2 more things that I will put in the show notes. Books that I like are Traction by Gina Wickman, and then Scaling Up, which is like part of an action coach series. So I'll put those in the show notes, a couple more books for you guys listening. And then on kind of the note of hiring, some of my listeners here on the podcast are getting ready to hire their first team members. And it's definitely a super exciting time as a pro organizer. You're booked out for months, and that's when you know that it's time to hire. Like when people literally can't book you for your time for organizing because you're booked out, a month, 2, 3 months. So I know that you wrote another amazing LinkedIn article. You're just like on a roll with these things about like love languages and how we can use those to really motivate and inspire. So tell us about that.
Yes. Well, I'm such a fan of the love languages. words of affirmation, acts of service. Of course, yeah, there they are. Oh, you got the book, Gary Chapman. So good. Now, if you go online, you can take the love languages test for free. There's a whole website on it, and you can take it for free. In the workplace, they have, because touch is one of the love languages, and that is definitely not permitted in business. There is the appreciation languages. And so this is so important when you begin working with people and hiring staff, is to understand how they perceive value, or them being valued and appreciation, right? So like for me, I had employees that what their love language was me spending one-on-one time with them. If I gave them direct attention, like that was the reward, and I could get the best out of them because that's what they needed. Other employees, it was me bringing a cup of coffee and just putting it on their desk, like, a gift, that sort of thing, right? So it's like understanding how employees and people you work with, you know, like how what their appreciation language is, it moves mountains on how you can help really motivate them and bring out the best in them in the work environment.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think too, as a boss, when you, even with clients, with customers, with people on your team, like inadvertently, like maybe CPAs, bookkeepers, tax
Mhm.
attorneys, executive assistants, whatever, whoever's like on the back end of your
Exactly.
business, I think it helps because that way it just helps you build relationships better. When I first read the book, The Five Love Languages, I was like, holy cow, that's why
Right.
those relationships never worked, because
Yes.
I wasn't
Yes.
getting my own tank filled up,
Mhm.
so to speak. So I love that
Totally.
relate that into the workplace. And yeah, obviously we're not calling it the love language for the workplace. We'll call it
Right.
appreciation language. Love that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely worth looking into.
So before we wrap up, I do want to touch on another piece that you recently put together,
Sure.
all about using our imaginations
Yeah.
as business owners and really choosing to play more. This is definitely something that I struggle with because I have that, take no prisoners, get shit done kind of personality. And so I would love to be able to have fun more, use my imagination more. So tell us about this. It's not a box idea.
Sure, sure. It's a children's book. It's called It's Not a Box. And I believe the author is Antoinette Portis, I believe her name is. And it was like this massive smack in my face of how conditioned we've become. When we're kids and we're given a cardboard box, like we get in the cardboard box and we make it all these different things. It's a fire truck, it's a rocket ship, it's an ambulance, it's a whatever. And then what happens is as we get older, it's like it's just a cardboard box. And the purpose of the cardboard box is to put things in and pack it away and whatever. And it's like we lose that sense of creativity and wonder and imagination. And so I really, bring this into kind of all my client meetings and all my friends as well, is getting back to seeing things not for what they literally are, but what they could be or can become, right? And I think that's really helpful as well with developing a growth mindset in business as well, where it's like, okay, there's a problem, you're facing a problem, or you're facing something right in front of you. What are all the other things that this is in front of me, right? Is it an opportunity? Is it ability to learn? Is it, how do we kind of really holistically look at things? And, because business is so much about problem solving. So I think that this whole It's Not a Box, children's book, and reading and flipping through the pages is really a reminder to us, like, what could it be? What can anything really be? Not to get too like woo woo out there, but like I just love it. And I challenge myself all the time with, what could it be besides a box?
I was having so many light bulb moments as you were taking us through that, because when I look at, okay, we'll tell people what the group name was. It was Networking for Assholes. And it was here in San Diego and had, over 400 members at one point. And this is pre-pandemic when we could all, meet in person. But I really loved to have conversations with different business owners around the San Diego area. Some of them were e-commerce experts, some of them were interior designers, commercial designers, real estate agents, all kinds of folks that would come to these events. And back in the day, they would just be coffee dates, lunch dates, dinner dates, happy hours, whatever, or even just phone calls, just little like networking meetings. And now the podcast has almost turned into that, but like sharing the value, so it's like, could these conversations be more, right? And so now I have a podcast. And like 2 other examples that I thought of was when I wrote my book, Pivoting with Purpose. I also have that book, of course, obviously. This is like the book show.
So good.
I'm gonna list all of this stuff in the show notes, but literally the book, like people will ask me all the time, they'll go, well, how did you write a freaking book? That just seems like such a crazy endeavor, and how did you do it, and how long did it take, and blah blah blah, all the questions. And I'm always happy to answer those questions if anyone's listening to this and they're thinking about writing a book. But literally my book is all of my keynote speeches, my live workshops, random social media captions that did really well engagement wise, blog articles from like the past 10 years of like my arsenal of content. Literally, that's all the book is.
Right. Brilliant.
So like, I love this, like, it's not a box idea, because when I was making all of those blog posts and all of those social media captions, I wasn't thinking any of this was ever going to go into a book someday.
Right.
And now, now here we are. And then the same with like my course, just helping solve problems, just in the DMs, answering questions from other organizers. And now I have my course. So don't be afraid to think bigger, I think, is kind of the point there. Yeah.
Oh my God. I love that you just said that, because it was like literally like the Twitter feed today. I was like, put it out there. That was the question I asked Twitterland. I was like, when you catch yourself thinking small, how do you shift to think bigger? Right. And it's like, it was a really great feed. You could follow me on @SueIzzo on Twitter, and you could see this massive feed of people and all their different suggestions and tools and tricks on how to do that. But I challenge all of you guys to, next time you see a box, I want you to DM Melissa on what that actually is, because it is not a box.
So true. And where can they DM you, Sue? Where can people find you? I know they're going to want to connect after this.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I am Sue Izzo on Instagram, on LinkedIn, on Twitter. So that's on my website too. So you can follow me anywhere there, and love to meet you guys. And I'm so excited that you are in, the orbit of Melissa, because there's no better leader to be with than her.
Thank you. And if you guys need a kick in the pants with a hug, make sure that you hit up Sue. She's a wealth of knowledge and such a ball of energy, and literally just contagious energy that will rub off on you, even if it's just a DM. So please reach out to her and tell her that you enjoyed this podcast episode. Thanks again, Sue, for being on, and let's catch up in person IRL soon.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Yay.